Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. A very, very special episode. We are midweek here. This is not Sunday. You can check your calendars if you want, but this is actually not Sunday. This is Wednesday right now, coming to you live from the World Crypto Network with these all-time highs. These guys are, it's getting nuts out there, you guys. I mean, people are going crazy, miners, shortages, stat sites going down, exchanges crashing. So it's bonkers out there, but the ecosystem is definitely enjoying this. I'm really excited to bring you the show, you guys, right here on Wednesday, right in the afternoon. We have over 225 viewers already. I wanted to start this show today because there is so much good news. It's not just because of the prices, right? I actually really wanted to start this show because of the technologies that's coming out and the things that I'm really excited about. So I have some amazing panelists here again, you guys. I'm really excited to get started. So let's go ahead and introduce these guys right here. We have returning the Gabriel Devine. How you doing, Gabriel?
I'm doing great. Happy all-time high, Bitcoiners.
Over 13,100 on Bitstamp. I am tripping a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go with Mr. Francis Pouliot. How you doing, Francis?
Hey, hi, Vortex. What's up, everybody? It's great to be here.
That's right. Cadillac sign behind you and everything looking good, looking snazzy, looking pro. We got Mr. Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
Go Bitcoin, go Bitcoin, go. Go Bitcoin, go Bitcoin, go. 13,000. Thanks for having me, Vortex. I'm excited.
Yeah, something tells me Austin's a hodler, people. Austin is a hodler. And finally, the one and only Andy Hoffman from CryptoGoldCentral.com. Andy, how are you doing? Oh, you're muted, Andy. I was going to unmute that.
Yes, when I was on Wall Street at the height of the dot-com bubble, I don't remember being this busy.
Oh, man, that's amazing. That is amazing. Now, I think everybody's well aware that the dot-com bubble got into the trillions before that actually finally crashed. And so we're still only at a few hundred billion right now. Still got a long ways to go. I think 2018 is going to be an absolutely exciting year, huge year for technology, for price, for sovereignty, for self-sovereignty, for real sound money. So really awesome, really excited, looking forward to that. So without further ado, let us start our first topic, the big topic, the huge topic, the topic that I started this show for is the actual Lightning specification has been launched. Ladies and gentlemen, this to me is huge news. I tweeted this out. I really don't think that people understand the implications of this yet. So I kind of wanted to go explore this a little bit further with some panelists here and really try to help the community understand what this could really mean for Bitcoin in the long term. And I think it's going to be pretty amazing. So let's go first with Gabriel, or maybe he there he is. Okay, let's go first with Mr. Gabriel Devine and get his thoughts on this specification being launched today. And just a real quick thanks to all the Lightning team over there, Roast Beef, Elizabeth Stark. You guys are just doing amazing work, amazing job. Thank you so much for your work. And you guys are working fast too. It's still 2017, people, and we have a Lightning spec released. So amazing stuff. Gabriel, please go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Hey, Vortex, I jumped on this call, kind of impromptu with you. So so I thought there already was. I know there was a testing suite that they were testing the implementations. They're building about 3, I believe, implementations of Lightning with different software stacks and stuff. So is this the final version of the spec that was released?
Yes. So now all the Lightning implementations are all compatible with each other now because of this spec. And they actually did on-chain real live net transactions. There was only a few, of course, but they did live mainnet, is what we call it, mainnet transactions.
That is amazing and so great. The skeptics of Lightning Network over the last 2 years have been vociferous in their critique of the unknown sections of the technology, right? So there was the initial proposal and a very brief white paper created by Joseph Poon and Tad Strija, and just like with Bitcoin, the original white paper is 8 pages, 9 pages. They don't talk about the issuance schedule at all. It doesn't have any of the software, sort of implementation stuff at all. It doesn't even talk about distributed hash tables as a method for the P2P communication. If so, barely. It mostly talks about the mining incentive structure, which is, of course, the newest, most innovative part of it at that time. So, the Lightning white paper is very brief. It describes the basic overview, and that's because the real innovation in the Lightning Network was, of course, the chaining, the daisy chaining, and of contracts, the daisy chaining of these hash-locked contracts that are timed to time out. If one of the parties in the chain falls out, then it will eventually hit the blockchain. So that whole concept of just a couple of quick upgrades to the Bitcoin network that will be very uncontroversial, things that are great to add to the blockchain anyways, like being able to set a relative time lock, as opposed to saying, okay, Thursday afternoon at 3, we can say 112 hours or whatever. So, just with a couple of simple upgrades, and of course the big giant upgrade of transaction malleability, fixing with segregated witness eventually, that was all that they sketched out with the white paper. And of course the naysayers come along and say, well, the routing through the hub and spoke model will be impossible, when of course that's a much easier problem to solve than the original contract structure that Dryja and Poon came up with. So it is fantastic to see that they, all the developers, these incredible people like you mentioned, Elizabeth Stark and the others, coming up with these really great innovations and filling in the gaps that did require some innovation, did require research and testing. That is incredible news, not a surprise, but a wonderful piece of news.
Absolutely. Exciting times, ladies and gentlemen. Again, not just for the price, because of the amazing technology that's coming out in this space, specifically the Bitcoin space. Just amazing things coming out. We're really excited to even get more into it. So let's go with Francis. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on this momentous occasion for Lightning?
Yeah, well, about like 1 hour ago, I was sitting with my. Is there a lot of echo? Can you hear me?
We're not getting any echo. Nope.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so about like an hour ago, I was sitting with my devs, and we just saw that like happening on Reddit. And right away, I was like, okay, so here's the roadmap to get like our node up and running and testing. And I just look at the time and like, shit, I need to go on WCN. So I can't do that. So I was super excited. It was super great news. So to give like a little bit of context, like Lightning is an idea. Lightning is more of a kind of a concept, right? And when it came out, immediately or very soon after, we saw 3 different groups competing to do the implementation. So you had LND, you had Eclair, and you had Lightning, or I can't remember the names. The one was Blockstream, one was Lightning Labs, and the other one was a company called Async from France. There's a few other ones, but I think they didn't end up working out. There was like Bitfury and there was Blockchain for working on their standards. But what happened, what's really interesting is that these 3 different groups work together. They invented something which was the Scala protocol. They developed in Milan. So it was kind of a roadmap and set of tests and integration. And they kind of came to an understanding. We're going to, from now on, work together to keep our implementations completely compatible. And it seems to me, I don't have any confirmation, but it seems like there was like some kind of gentleman agreement that they wouldn't launch anything until everybody was cross-compatible with each other. So they started doing tests between the different implementations of Lightning to make sure, like, if I route, is it going to work? If I ask for payment, is it going to work? If I send money, is it going to work? And that's what we see on the blog post. You have like 75 out of 75. That's basically a bunch of different things. And they're going like Eclair, LND, Lightning, Eclair, Lightning. They were testing all of that. So today what happened is that all these international groups finally came to compatibility together. And they delivered like big time, because we saw them as saviors. Every time I met them, I was like, thank you guys for doing Lightning. You're kind of saving us. We put a lot of pressure. On these people, like really hard. We were being really rough on Lightning, saying like Lightning's going to save us. And they're just like, holy shit. We certainly hope that we're going to be able to save Bitcoin, because otherwise, it's like huge expectations. They did not let us down. It's really fantastic. And, we've been thinking at Galaxy, my company, on how to monetize this. It's a huge business opportunity for anybody that worked in Bitcoin. Every single merchant that is going to need, to accept Lightning, Lightning payments. So anybody that's familiar with Lightning is going to get a lot of consulting gigs on that. That's like really good. And thinking about the way that the ecosystem is gonna, we realize like you don't need that many connections with. I don't know exactly how it's gonna work. I think probably at the end of the day, I'm gonna start to contact some of the other businesses that I know are working on Lightning. I think they're gonna have to like text me their IP addresses, and we're gonna have to open channels manually for now to establish the network. But I mean, yeah, fantastic news, and it couldn't come at a better time.
Awesome, awesome. Already having plans, already preparing yourself for integration with your business. And this is what I think is the big implication here, people. Because of the specification has been released, now people can start talking about integrating it into their business. And this is where Lightning begins to take off. Very, very important. So let's go ahead and go with Mr. Andy Hoffman here. Andy, I know you're writing stuff down over there. I see you writing stuff down. I'm excited to hear what you got to say, Andy. What are your thoughts on all the conversation so far, and this really watershed moment for Bitcoin?
Right. Well, I think that as soon as we saw SegWit get activated, we all knew that there was going to be a technological revolution that's going to hit cryptocurrency like nothing since the dot-com boom 15 years ago, except we're talking about a lot more money and a lot more at stake. And there's one really combined goal here of the whole world. And I think that it's almost going to be like movie-like, where everyone's contributing to this effort because it's so overwhelmingly positive for the majority of the world's population. And now, when I see all that's going on, to relate it to what's going on in the markets today, say, people are going, oh, it's a bubble, it's going crazy, everyone's FOMO. And I don't see this as FOMO. I think it's very organized. I think what's going on is several things at once. Of course, we reached the critical mass in terms of size. That 100 billion was a big deal. Now we're at 200 billion. We passed 10,000 euros last night as if it wasn't even there. And it's getting to the point where every institution in the world, as I kind of thought at some point down the road, I didn't think it would be this soon, realizes that they need to own it. It's not FOMO, it's not a bubble, it's simply, as Max Kaiser put it, he put it the best possible way. This is the first mega asset class to be developed in hundreds of years. There's basically stocks, bonds, both of which I believe are archaic and are going to be replaced by decentralized financing methods, currencies, which are going to be replaced by decentralized currencies, and of course gold, which is now, it's no longer in the same league. Gold has been usurped after 5,000 years. It only took about 5 years of Bitcoin to do that. So all these things are coming together for what I just tweeted as the killer app of Bitcoin. The killer app of Bitcoin is we are moving into the digital age. It really is going to be like Star Trek, and the whole world is starting to realize this right now. And when people see what these things like Lightning can do, which none of us can even conceive. None of us on this call will be able to conceive how amazing the changes will be in technology.
Absolutely. And just real quick, Andy, how is the price of Bcash doing? Have you been keeping up with that at all?
Yes, I have. It's down to about 11%. So it's back to where it started. And, it's going to go lower. In fact, you look at the amazing thing about what's going on. This isn't like a wholesale sell-off of cryptocurrencies. It's simply a realization that there's really only one. Yes, Litecoin has characteristics of cryptocurrency because it just will never have the network effect. But everything else, people are just realizing they're just tech stocks. And no one really cares that much because most of them, including Ethereum, don't do a heck of a lot of everything. So Bcash, gave, another reason why we're doing all this right now is because we finally beat the internal politics. That was what bothered me most. I was worried that there'd be chain splits and hacks and usurpations. That's all dead. Roger Ver gone, Jihan Wu gone. They're all gone. It's all a matter of Bitcoin and everything else doing their best to have to work hard to just stay in place. Bitcoin doesn't have to do anything because it's becoming the global reserve currency in a hurry.
Absolutely. And, we still have a little bit of the Jihan problem. He's still a bit of a boss. But, hey, now with these new mining these new mining efforts coming out that we'll talk about later in the show with Bitfury and Halon, and it's just, I think you're right. I think in the long run, for sure, Jihan doesn't stand a chance. His monopoly seems to be inevitably going to fall. So very interesting stuff, Andy. Thank you so much. Let's go with Austin. Austin, what are your thoughts on the conversation so far? I know you're a day trader. You're trading the crypto all the time, man. So, like, what is it like out there in the market? What is Bitcoin doing to the rest of the coins? And then what are your thoughts on Lightning?
Yeah, definitely. Good topics and good points these guys brought. So one thing I always like to tell everyone is, at least 80% of your money, even though I'm a trader, at least 80% of my money is still in Bitcoin and invested in, making more Bitcoin in the future, whether it be mining or other business opportunities. So I'm always happy to see when Bitcoin rises. And that other 20%, I think there's a lot of opportunities out there to trade some of these ICOs and multiply your Bitcoins by doing that. I think that this Lightning Network is actually going to hurt Litecoin, I think, the most, honestly. So I'm not currently going to be trading Litecoin for a little bit, because I think that if Lightning Network goes live and is actually working for Bitcoin, why do we really need Litecoin? With transactions going through at the speeds that they talk about, thousands greater than what we are already at right now. Now, there's no rush in my mind to jump into Lightning Network or to push Lightning Network onto Bitcoin. I think that that's probably the reason why we're surging, in price today. But like I said, there's no rush, because Bitcoin's still going to be a store of value currently. And that store of value is going to translate over, I think, the next couple years. And then when the next couple years, the mainstream, the early adopters finally figure out how to use their wallets and actually, be able to purchase things with Bitcoin, then I think that Lightning Network will be used a lot more in the future. Like, I think, honestly, we probably have another year till Lightning Network, I think, would actually even be live on the network. And then I think Bitcoin's price should be over 50,000 by then. And, then it's going to become used for small transactions. I know that they were talking about the transactions that they were already doing on these tests that they were implementing, and they were sending basically 80-cent transactions back and forth on their test network for this Lightning upgrade that they're going to do on Bitcoin, and it's working successfully. So I don't have a problem with Litecoin or
Austin,
Lightning Network.
Couple things. That's not a test net. That was on mainnet.
That was on mainnet.
On mainnet, and secondly, Lightning is not an upgrade to Bitcoin, but a software layer that floats above Bitcoin, you might say.
Yep, and if you get a second, I just want to only push back a little bit on the Litecoin thing too, because look, I don't hold a whole lot of Litecoin, guys. I'm not Litecoin rich or anything, but I just wanted to do a little bit of a pushback on that. Like Gabriel says, the Lightning Network is cross chain, so it's a layer that sits above all these chains, and so we can do Lightning swaps, for example, between Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and these type of things, and we can do even atomic swaps, with Lightning Network across these things, and so it becomes more of a layer above all of these tokens than for example, just helping out Bitcoin. And also, Litecoin is still the best, it's the second best test net for Bitcoin, right? We have obviously the Bitcoin test net, but Litecoin, I mean, man, you guys, SegWit happened first on Litecoin. A bunch of stuff happened first on Litecoin. And so it's a much smaller ecosystem that can move much faster than Bitcoin. And it's great to be able to have that similar, that code is similar to Bitcoin, because, it really is the biggest token that is as similar to Bitcoin when it comes to the actual code itself, because it was a fork of Bitcoin. And so it's just really great to have something that's like Bitcoin that we can test all these amazing new things on. And for example, the first Lightning tests were also on Litecoin. And so, because they had SegWit first, right? So it's really great to be able to have that. And again, Charlie Lee, man, is a bit of a force of nature. I don't like oracles. I don't like being able to attach a name with a coin. But look, Charlie, I mean, you're too good, man. It's your own damn fault, man. Success.
Can I add something on Charlie Lee?
Yeah, please.
I saw the Time Person of the Year. They were going to they actually gave it to all these whistleblowers like Harvey Weinstein, to show you how ridiculous the media has gotten. But I nominate Charlie Lee because of all the people in the SegWit battle. I honestly think his contribution was the one that turned the tide.
It was certainly important, very, very important. And of course, everybody knows Charlie Lee is very, very adamant about Bitcoin as well. I mean, Litecoin is a fork of Bitcoin. So Charlie has a whole lot of love for Bitcoin as well. And so it's really great to be able to test these things. So sorry, Austin, go ahead and finish
Yeah, no, I don't think that Litecoin's going away by any means. I think Litecoin will obviously be around, especially since, you know, all your large exchanges listing Bitcoin, they also list Litecoin and Ethereum for purchase. And so you're going to get some of the money flows that are just going into Bitcoin. They're going to trickle over to Litecoin. I don't think as much, though, as Bitcoin is. I mean, if you look at the increase that we've had in just the last month, you know, in Bitcoin's price, we've gone up over 100% since the beginning of November, and now it's the beginning of December. And you know, so as a trader, I am basically wanting to hold as much Bitcoin as possible, because I know that all the money that's coming into the market, with all the new money that's coming into the market, is basically going into Bitcoin to at least begin with. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because, you know, all the liquidity, most of the liquidity right now in the US is kind of coming from Coinbase and GDAX, and really Coinbase. They're signing up 100,000 users a day now. And so with that kind of stuff, you know, with that kind of volume, the Coinbase, of course, only supports 3 coins right now, and that is Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. And so it makes sense that, you know, Litecoin will probably, you know, it's really, its goal is to help Bitcoin. You know, Charlie Lee has stated this a bunch of times. His only goal with Litecoin really is to be the silver to Bitcoin's gold, like to help Bitcoin. And maybe even one day, you know, they'll combine somehow. I don't know what that's going to look like, whether that's merged mining, whatever, you know, that's in the far future. But at the same time, the trajectory is kind of clear. Stick close to Bitcoin and, you know, help it out as much as possible. So that's really cool. And we're really happy about that. Does anybody else have anything to say on the Lightning before we go ahead and move on?
Yeah. 2 things. So just going on to Litecoin, I was actually going to say something the opposite. I was going to say, I think Litecoin now has an incentive to differentiate itself and not to become closer and closer to Bitcoin, because since the onboarding from Bitcoin to Litecoin has become so easy, then, you know, people are going to, it's the barrier to entry for going to Litecoin is low, but people would not go from Bitcoin to Litecoin for the usability factor, because, you know, 4 times faster blocks. I don't think it's like, you know, you're not gonna switch to Litecoin to do transactions using atomic swaps and go back to Bitcoin if you can do it on the Lightning Network anyway. So I mean, I would see Litecoin like implementing stuff that people actually want to use, particularly privacy, you know. So I think Litecoin's future is probably as a privacy thing, where you can like swap into Litecoin, use like confidential transactions on Litecoin as a mixer, and like go back into Bitcoin. So I mean, I agree. I mean, this may also consecrate like Litecoin as the only altcoin, right? That's gonna actually make it. I think, I mean, Lightning Network is compatible between a bunch of coins, but I mean, it seems like, you know, the atomic swaps are going to primarily be happening between Litecoin and Bitcoin. And the other observation is that I was talking to Lightning developers, and they had a very interesting frame of mind where they were saying people do not lock funds in a Lightning Network smart contract. People free their funds through Lightning Network. They are already frozen in the Bitcoin blockchain. They are kind of in amber. And this would be an interesting mentality to kind of see going forward, where people see like, my Bitcoins are locked on the blockchain. I will unlock them in a smart contract, you know, and this is how people will think. And then I'll lock them back in the blockchain once I'm done. And instead of locking your funds in the smart contract, which is like the big criticism, that people will not want to lock their funds in a smart contract, whatever. So I mean, yeah, maybe that's kind of a little, you know, perception shift regarding those smart contracts, and what's locked, what's unlocked, what's free, and what's free flowing and what's not.
Man, that is just an absolute astute observation, man. That is just amazing, because it's really true. I mean, it completely flips the FUD on its head, right? Instead of worrying about you know, having your funds all locked up in Lightning. Oh no, it's locked up in Lightning. No, it's actually kind of more locked up in the base layer, and that's kind of by design. We want that to be the settlement layer. We want that to be secure. We want that to be censorship resistant, so nobody can take that away. We want that to be decentralized. But hey, when I want to spend my coins, well, yeah, then sure, I'll move up a layer and be able to spend that for almost free, right? With these amazing things like Lightning Network. So that's a very, very, very great way of thinking about it. Lightning actually frees your coins instead of having them, you know, locked up nice and safe and sound and cozy on the actual base layer, the base chain there. So
you know, what I wanted to add here, because you're talking about differentiation of, say, Litecoin, and, you know, the only one that could survive that kind of thing. Look, there's 2 alternate scenarios the way I see it, and I think today gives us a real, you know, I don't know if it's the end game, but it gives us a real look into how the world views this. This is a reality, okay, of the entire world buying Bitcoin, right? They don't care about any of these other ones. I mean, they literally except for IOTA, which I'm sure will dump as fast as it pumps. Everyone's buying Bitcoin. There are two things that could happen here. We could have a NASDAQ-like thing where everyone just buys everything. You have a mania at some point where they don't care. We may have already had it, though. We may have already had that this year, this summer, where everyone bought Ethereum and every altcoin in ICO, and then eventually they dump. Or we have a world where people realize what we've been saying all along, that these coins are all pretty much worthless. And Roger Ver, if he really did take a lot of his Bitcoin and buy Bcash with it, thinking I can control this coin and I got like my big name behind it, once he realizes that the big money of the world couldn't care less about any single person, let alone him, and they go, well, but Bcash doesn't do anything, and it's centralized, it's completely worthless. And then they go, oh yeah, and there's also like B Diamond that does like the same thing, and oh yeah, B Gold, and Super Bitcoin, and Lightning Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Platinum, and Bitcoin Ultra, and Bitcoin Uranium, to the point where everyone just looks at these things and going, they're all completely worthless. And they really do go down and become penny stocks. And there's just this one. So that is one scenario. I mean, we could have this mania where all the big money just goes and buys everything. But when I see stuff like today, it's not like there's a crisis going on. Stock markets are doing fine. But I think the markets are saying they understand that this is the reserve currency, and everything else, as Francis says, is going to have to prove itself. Fortunately, Litecoin, which is the only other one I own, which is like a 0.5% position, is the only one that doesn't really have to prove anything, because it is, you know, a very, very small silver to Bitcoin's gold. But the rest of them, they better come up with some use cases quick, because Bcash could be, you know, be trash really, really quick.
Yep, very true. And I just want to add a little bit to this conversation as well, because I just still don't think people understand fully the implications of Lightning and how fast it's going to take on, because, you know, we didn't expect to see 10,000 this year, right? We didn't expect to see the actual Lightning release this year, but yet it's 2017, and all these things that we projected to happen 3, 4, 5 years in the future are all happening this year. And so that's something very important to take into account. That's something very important for the market. That's something very important that the market is learning right now, that this thing is going to move out of control, you know, faster than anybody can really fathom. And so this is really, again, really an important date, because remember, the Lightning is not, there's not a date where Lightning is just going to be out there and everywhere. There's not an exact time and date where we can point to and say, bam, Lightning will be successful on this date. It's going to grow organically, just like Bitcoin did itself. This is a separate layer that people will opt into and put in their technology stack. This is something they will add to their company's technology. And so this is going to grow slowly and organically and up, but well, I don't know about slowly, but it's going to grow organically. And eventually my projections are that the end of next year, I mean, we'll see Lightning in full force. Every major tech company, every major exchange by the end of 2018 will be using this technology. It will be integrated almost completely into the ecosystem by the end of 2018. And
can you Vortex, just for everyone here, including myself, can you explain one more time what exactly has Lightning just done that's new? Because I'm a little confused.
Well, so the biggest thing is the biggest thing that the biggest news here is that they actually released the 1.0 specification, so that they released the actual spec. So now all the Lightning teams that are developing Lightning, as well as all the companies who want to use Lightning, now have this paper to go to, this code and this paper to go to and say, okay, this is what we need to implement the Lightning Network. Let's do it. It's basically a checklist now for everybody to be able to have, so they can begin implementing Lightning. And that's why this is where it begins. This is the starting point of where Lightning begins to implement organically through the ecosystem. Yeah, so that's really important. And then another thing, of course, this guys enables is the decentralized exchanges, right? Like, this is huge. You know, fiat aside, I'm not really worried about fiat right now, but just for the tokens, I mean, you know, you have things like BISC and then altcoin.io. These companies and these businesses and many more will take advantage of this to bring the exchange activity, the order books, completely decentralized. We don't need Coinbase, right? We don't need these types of things. They're still going to hang around for legacy things, of course, but the big activity is all going to move eventually to these decentralized exchanges. And that's important, because that's the ethos of Bitcoin. This is where we're trying to go. We're trying to open up and free money, not further silo it in things like Coinbases and things like that. So very, very, very interesting stuff. And then I think that's about all my comments. Does anybody else have anything on Lightning? Francis, did you have something or no? Okay, no, cool. I think we can go ahead then and move on. And again, just a big thanks to the Lightning team. A big thanks to everyone over there. We're really, really, really happy that you guys got this stuff released. We know there's a lot of pressure because the fees are growing a little bit there. But hey, this is early days still, guys. This is early days. People are always talking about how, oh no, it's $10,000 now. It's really too late to get in. It's not too late. There is so much more to do. If you guys are a designer, if you guys are a programmer, if you guys are a manager, whatever you do, like it doesn't matter what you do, Bitcoin needs you. And so there's so much room in this ecosystem to grow. There's going to be many, many millionaires made, and the first trillionaire, I'm absolutely certain will have something to do with crypto. So very awesome stuff. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. Actually, I think I want to talk about the Bitfury topic. So let's talk about, speaking of all this decentralization, let's talk about the mining topic here. Bitfury announced that they are actually going to launch this huge new data center here in North America, like completely huge, the biggest that there is in North America for mining Bitcoin and other Bitcoin types of services. And so I wanted to get the thoughts on from the panelists here to think, how does this going to play out? How is this going to affect Bitcoin? And is this really going to provide the actual competition that we need to perhaps remove Jihan's monopoly over there at Bitmain, right? Is this going to really provide the good competition? And this, and in addition to of course, the BTC Drax miner that was recently announced, right? The Dragon Mint miner from Halon. That is also, I'd like to bring into the discussion. So let's go ahead and start out with Francis first. Francis, what is your thoughts on this Bitfury news? And can this really provide the competition that we need in the mining space for Bitcoin?
You guys, where will the data center be? Do you know? In North America?
In Canada. In Canada.
In Quebec or where? Do you know?
Well, yeah. So basically, Bitfury's been operating some stuff in Canada for some time, but they're most of the activities that I've seen coming out of, and to be honest, at the beginning, I got tipped off by some job advertisements that were like Bitfury engineers in Alberta, and I started looking into that and started hearing about some Russians that were building a big data center in Alberta, but they're Georgians, right? I think they do speak Russian, so kind of put 2 and 2 together. So it seems like that deal was like a Canadian company is going to be buying a lot of miners from Bitfury in order to launch the data center in Canada. So that's how I interpreted that news. I haven't contacted any of the parties, so I can't confirm anything. And they were talking about like 20 megawatt and then 30 megawatts. So like a total of I think the total was like around 60 megawatts of mining. 60 megawatts of mining is a lot. That's a big mine. That's like, that's not the biggest, probably not the biggest mine in the world. But it's definitely really, really close. The thing with Bitfury, it seems to me like Bitfury is really more like institutional. I don't think they sell to the public that much. It seems like they're going through those really big deals. And since like Bitfury, like you can tell the whole Bitfury people are involved in so many things in brokerage. You can see the Bitfury CEO was talk about meeting, hedge funds and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think they're doing like their own thing in the sense that I'm not sure Bitfury itself helps decentralization, but it's definitely a big present counterbalance to obviously the other big centralized entity, Bitmain. So at least we have one like big established player which is able to land, some multiple hundred. I don't know what the amount on the deal was, but it's definitely, we're talking about probably close. It's probably 9 figures, right? It's either
they only deal in those large containers, right? So it's definitely probably 9 figures.
Yeah. So 60 megawatts. That's I don't know exactly what they're buying, but it's definitely a lot. So Halong is super interesting. Halong. So I think the last episode I was on, I talked about Halong. I disclosed I had bought some Halong, and now I am going to be testing the Halong. So I actually just came back from the University of Montreal yesterday at their cyber justice department, and they actually have some mining operations there. So it's a nice laboratory setting for benchmarking. I'm probably going to be getting my hands on some Halong mining very, very soon and inviting some people to test it. So the FUD will be once and for all dispelled. Behind the scenes, I mean, Halong, the sale of the miner has been like absolutely incredible. Just the fact that I like tweeted about it. I got contacted by miners that want to use me as a proxy to convince like the manufacturers to sell them, even though it's sold out. So like people literally want to pay me so I can like convince them to make more. It's like insane. I've actually been solicited a lot. That's going to be really, really good. So hopefully over time, the design of the chip is going to get open sourced, which is, from what I understand, that's the plan. Hopefully over time, people are going to be able to design, to manufacture the Hailong chips pretty much anywhere in the world on demand. So that's like really, really fantastic. Couldn't be more excited about that. It's one of those projects that's extremely high risk. Hailong is very, very risky project. You can always know that the miner is working, but you can never know if they're going to be able to ship those containers. And as we know, the difficulty right now, the price has gone up a lot. The difficulty hasn't really caught up. So if you look at like, if you're doing your mining ROI projections like right now, you're going to be insanely profitable. But the big challenge with Hailong is, are they going to deliver on time? That's the big challenge, because right now, you know, we got to take advantage of this really low difficulty, which is really going to get much higher in the next few weeks. So hopefully the Hailong miner ROI, because what you want to do is you want to make a good case for the Hailong miner, right? You want to make a really positive ROI case for people, and if they ship too late, they might not get the chance to make that really powerful and compelling narrative. There's also a bunch of stuff that are coming out, and it's always kind of a trade-off between those big manufacturers like Bitfury and I can't remember the name of the one in Japan. Are they going to mine, or are they going to be selling the miners? It just all depends on the strategy, you know. Like Bitmain is selling, but it's not because they're pro decentralization. It's because they'd rather make 6 months of mining income now than, you know, mine for 6 months, right? They can actualize their gains like right now. So I don't know. Like, so let's see how the businesses develop. But that big deal in Canada, I think we're going to see many more happen. I think right now, like, you know, the deals that are being negotiated now for mining, it's like insane. You know, people are building these 100 megawatt data centers, yeah, and getting them populated right away with miners only. So those big data centers are definitely going to continue to come. Hopefully, not populated with Bitmain miners.
Right, absolutely. So very interesting stuff. Yeah, so Bitfury does do the big, huge containers as opposed to just selling the ones to the retail customer. So very interesting. But yeah, the Hailong, though, that is the retail, and that could really usher in, if their narrative really gets huge and they really come in and all, you know, just swinging and they really succeed, man, that could blow the retail market wide open across the planet for manufacturers to try to get into this game, because the price is not going anywhere, right? Even if we correct down to $8 grand, oh well, there's insane profits still to be made, like in all of the mining and the companies and the, you know, there's just a million things to do. It's just so early. There's a lot of stuff to do. So
yeah, and altcoins are taking a hit, by the way. Like Dash mining is like taking a hit, and like even Litecoin, like since they came out with so many new mining models recently, like the InnoSilicon, you know, it's the difficulty of Litecoin is going like really high. I haven't checked the Ethereum that much recently, but I can't imagine is better than Bitcoin. So when you're a miner, a lot of miners want to hedge themselves. And like right now, is no question, like there's no hedging at all. Like you're all into Bitcoin, or else you're just you know, you're just leaking money basically.
Amazing. Yep. And we do see some stuff going up there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's going, eventually it's going to take a hit. And of course, this is what, you know, Bitcoin maximalists or people who understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin have always been saying, that eventually it's just going to be like a black hole and suck in all liquidity, all activity, and bring it all together all over one single network. And this is similar to what happened with TCP/IP. There was a bunch of little networks everywhere, you know, like BBSs and stuff like that. But once we could all come together and speak over TCP/IP, I mean, that's when the web was born, and that's where we could all come together and build.
Yeah, and those blockchains are consuming also a lot of electricity, right? It's coming to a point where, like, you know, Litecoin, Dash, and Ethereum are consuming a lot of electricity. You know, only one blockchain needs that amount of electricity. At some point, like the cost is getting really ridiculous. So that also plays into the.
But Francis, we have to power our crypto kitties. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
What do you talk about useless electricity? I got crypto kitties, man, to save. All right.
People are willing to pay for it, I guess.
All right, Austin, go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, so that's why Ethereum's price went up, right? Is crypto kitties. Everyone's excited about that. I better get one of them just in case it becomes worth some value. I just wanted to say that, you know, that company that is doing the deal is called Hut 8. That's the partner that's doing the deal with Bitfury. And one thing that I found really interesting, they're actually doing a 33 million Canadian dollar first phase offering. That's how much their first private placement deal is going towards. And then they're actually going to issue shares. It looks like shares of Canadian stocks, which you'll be able to buy in the first quarter of 2018. So that was interesting. It's going to give people another option to be able to kind of around the world invest into a mining company, an actual Bitcoin mining company. And it's headed by none other than Mike Novogratz, who is, the big time Bitcoin bull that thinks that Bitcoin's price should be between $500,000 and $1 million. So
Mr. Novogratz is making the rounds currently on every mainstream financial television show that ever existed. But sorry, go ahead, Austin.
I call him the crypto Warren Buffett.
Oh yeah,
So
very good, very good. Crypto
He's
Warren
on
Buffett.
the board of directors of this company. And so he's going to be heading that. That actually, I think, is a great thing for Bitcoin now that I'm reading it. Combating against Jihan Wu, Roger Ver, and Bitcoin Cash. This gives us another large player that might take up 20 or 30% of the hash power and keep it on the regular, Bitcoin legacy blockchain. We'll call it regular Bitcoin for the easy. But I think that will ultimately destroy the Bcash. So
very good, very good. All right, let's go with Gabriel next on this subject. What do you think about this Bitfury, Gabriel?
I don't know anything about it because George Kikvadze blocked me during the what's it called, the when we were toward the beginning of in the spring, when we had the UASF just kind of starting up. And people were starting to freak out, and a couple of hardcore fellas like Mark Wilcox and what's his face, oh God, Andrew DeSantis were like, well, hey, if you guys don't want SegWit, then we'll just fork to a different proof of work algorithm. And then suddenly the miners are up in arms, and wait, they're willing to go all hardcore. Luke Dash Jr. is like, yeah, let's just change the algorithm. If they're not willing to give us what we want and they want to block what the users want, then we don't need them. So during that, I was like, hey, you guys better watch out and give us what we want. And George was, who's the CEO of Bitfury, I think. It was just absolutely. That flipped a switch, even though he was like, yeah, SegWit sounds great, that flipped a switch for him. He's like, you guys are crazy. You're going to throw away all of the investment and I'm going to sue the pants off you. And then that was when I chimed in. I was like, hey, man, if you think that leveraging the violence of the nation state is going to stop a decentralized community of anarchists from running the software of their choice, you got another thing coming, man, because that ain't the way the world works, and that definitely ain't the way Bitcoin works.
And of course, we saw the UASF completely succeed. Everybody pretty much caved just as planned, just as the game theory played out.
Exactly, and I think that the fact that the proof of work algorithm change as a backstop existed out there as a last ditch option was probably a factor in that. It was like, okay, if you don't want this option, then you'll really get fucked. All of your hardware will be rendered useless in the matter of one block to the next. So yeah, that during that thing when I said, hey George, man, threatening to sue people is not going to get you anywhere, he blocked me, so I'm still blocked. Yeah, there's a little anecdote for you. I think it's great, Canadian, big giant mining farm, fantastic. Bring it on. All these. It ties into, as you guys touched upon, the all the naysaying, the latest anti-Bitcoin rants. Definitely have the ones that actually had any sort of argument behind them. Of course, the completely empty hot air is still being blasted out from finance insiders and billionaires. That's meaningless crap. We don't even need to address that. But all the arguments about the power usage, there's no analysis to compare it to about all the power being wasted in stupid bank branches and Visa, data centers and all this crap. Actually, Bitcoin is extremely efficient and also incentivizes increased efficiency, of course, because the cheaper you get your energy, the better of a job you're going to get, and the more Bitcoins you're going to get. It really renders electric power into a commodified, gamified, true market infrastructure. And it also greatly punishes socialist and communist regimes who support and subsidize power, because it just basically throws the method that they use to fund that, which is fiat creation, back in their face and saying, hey, we're just shunting your useless, worthless paper into a valuable sound asset with your electricity. So, all these arguments are total BS, and I think we should be encouraging as much power to be fueling this incredible sound money revolution as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very, very, very good stuff, Gabriel. I agree with all of that. It's going to get really crazy. If you think you can, if you're a nation state thinking you can go up against Bitcoin, you're going to have another thing coming. You're going to have a bad day, as the South Park episode goes. Let's go ahead and move to Mr. Andy Hoffman. Last but not least, Mr. Andy, what are your thoughts on Bitfury and then the Halon mining from BTC Drac?
Right. Well, first I'll go to what Gabriel's talking about with the electricity. It's just, it's just another one of these ridiculous propaganda memes that just don't hold water. I've read that the actual electricity consumption of Bitcoin is like 0.13% of all the electricity on the planet. And it's just, you'll get people like the gold people like, it's not going to work. There's too much electricity. No, they're using that electricity because it is working. But more importantly, I wrote in an article yesterday where I said, people don't understand, like Gabriel was saying with the bank branches, what we are doing is replacing. We are not adding incremental energy. We are going to be replacing all the energy that is used on worthless things, particularly in the fiat currency system and in all the things that are associated with. In fact, not just the fiat currency system, all of the inefficient procedures around the world that are going to be eliminated by cryptocurrency, not even just Bitcoin, by the fact that it's so much more efficient. So to say that it's inefficient is like comical when you think of what it will be replacing. And as for the mining stuff, of course, I have absolutely zero background in technical stuff, but that didn't stop me from having a career in oil drilling and gold mining. And what I see here is classic competition. It doesn't matter what you do in this space. Mining to me is a 100% commodity, and I think the FOMO to get into the mining space will be as big or bigger as the FOMO to get into the actual Bitcoin, because we know people are laughing at Fidelity like 6 months ago when they started mining Bitcoin. Fidelity's probably minting money right now, and they are a very wealthy company. And by the way, they are a tiny company compared to the massive companies like the E-Corps of the world that are going to be mining Bitcoin wholesale. So, we talk about, Jihan's monopoly is already gone. He'll make a lot of money, but he's not a factor. There are going to be countries that are going to be, governments that are going to be mining Bitcoin. And I think that I bet you a year and a half from now, the pie will be like 10,000 pieces as opposed to now where it's about 6 or 7.
That is very interesting. It's true. Another thing where I tell people, it's early days. I mean, you look at the mining pools and all the mining. There's only, like you say, it's slashed into like a dozen, 24 pieces. Until that thing is in the thousands, from all the people competing around the world. I mean, that's when you really can understand the gravity of this thing. And I always
just wait till the major tech companies get into this. There was talk about advanced micro devices. Just wait until Apple is spending all of their money on Bitcoin related stuff, and Microsoft and Google, because they're going to. Not just Bitcoin, crypto in general is where all of the big tech companies are going to be spending their money in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. And I always told people, like, look, there is some pockets of centralization in Bitcoin, but these can be worked out. Specifically in mining, I always knew that there was more players that are going to come into the space. As the price of Bitcoin rises, the incentives work. The incentives continue bringing new people into the space. And so this is what we're seeing now with Bitfury, with BTC Drac. And we're, like you say, eventually, Andy, we will see this with entire companies and then entire governments. So this is this is pretty big stuff. And the pockets of centralization will eventually go away, in my opinion. And really, people, that also brings up another point. People are always they're always pointing at these wallet addresses, right? All these wallet addresses, millions of wallet addresses only have like 0.1 coin. Most addresses only have, look, that's just on the chain, right? We have all of these huge services like Zappo and Coinbase and things like that. I mean, that store things on their own servers and in their own private vaults as well. But look, the distribution of this is going to be massive. And with Lightning, we can really now start building merchant services and stuff like that. All the stuff that we wanted to do in the early days of Bitcoin, before anybody ever actually joined it, we can now actually do and have these global merchant services and these decentralized exchanges. And these are all these amazing things thanks to the open source community, thanks to teams like Lightning and more, and thanks to teams like the Bitcoin Core team. And so this is just amazing stuff, amazing improvements. Does anybody else have any other things to say on the mining?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask everyone a question. What do you guys think that Lightning how will Lightning affect miners and mining fees? And I think Gabriel has an answer to that.
Yeah, Francis can jump in too, because he's more of an insider on the mining. But in general, people were listing that issue as one of the reasons why some miners were anti-SegWit. They didn't want to enable off-chain transactions because they thought that would mean that they would make less money in transaction fees. When, of course, the real Bitcoin visionaries understand that Lightning just makes Bitcoin hugely more useful. And so the likelihood is far more that actually the demand for on-chain transactions, which of course you need in order to get in and out of Lightning anyways, you have to do a blockchain transaction to enter the Lightning network and take your money back out if you don't want Bitcoin on there to move around quickly. So that's, first of all, you have to do a transaction to open channels and close them. But in addition, it makes Bitcoin so incredibly useful that it's likely that the adoption will increase anyways, and that on-chain transaction will increase anyways. So, I would say that what incentivizes miners is, of course, the value of Bitcoin in general. It's not just fees, right? And right now, fees are still much lower than the block size reward. But I'd love to open the floor to Francis to flesh it out.
I'd like to, before Francis, I just want to comment on that too, Gabriel, because that's really important. People were using this a lot, and they actually still continue to use this and saying that Lightning is going to, completely wipe out miners and make miners, go broke. And that's just the complete opposite of what's going to happen. Lightning does make Bitcoin useful, way more useful than it would be without it. And that will bring in the masses. Lightning is one of the last key things that we need to bring in the rest of the world. And, as our entire ecosystem is struggling right now under the weight of this crazy price, people can really start to see, like, look, this is really early days. We need Lightning, and Lightning will provide this huge influx of users. And again, you kind of have to ask yourself, do you want like a smaller piece of this enormously exponentially large pie, or do you want a big piece of this tiny little pie? I mean, it's up to the miners. But Francis, go ahead.
Well, yeah. I'm not that sure there's going to be that many channels that are going to be opened once Lightning Network is like really fleshed out. I was talking to some of the Lightning devs, and they were saying, like, why would you not leave your coins on Lightning for a whole year? Like, everybody's going to be connected anyway. So I don't think people are going to be opening channels that much. But I don't think miners are going to like lose revenue, right? Because the blocks are always going to be full. There's always going to be a demand for on-chain transactions, and what Lightning does is just new transactions that would just not happen. So I don't think it's. I think I've stopped trying to read the miners' minds. I'm really starting to think now more and more that it was just pettiness and ego, and the conspiracy angle is really giving them too much credit. I hope I'm right. I hope they're just being petty and stupid. But I don't know. I don't think it's. I don't. Yeah, thanks, Gabriel. I don't think it's gonna affect. I don't think that's part of the reason at all. I mean, I see them as it's hard for me to connect really the link between the existence of Lightning and the profitability of miners. I think it's kind of pushing it, and like maybe we can kind of make a case, but it's just, for me, it's just speculation. I don't think there's really anything tangible there.
And this is really important too, Francis. You said another important point that I really want to reiterate for the audience, because Roger conflates this all the freaking time. Like, look, we want the blocks to always be full, but that doesn't mean that we want to have the fees raised. That doesn't mean we want nobody using the network. That doesn't mean we want to price out all of the rest of the third world or anything like that, okay? The blocks always full means that the network is in use, means that people are finding value from this, means that there's incentives, means the incentive and structure is working to the point to where we will have new solutions like Lightning. As Andreas always says, Andreas Antonopoulos, we will continue to fail gracefully. We have to keep the blocks full. The blocks being full is a good thing, and not because the fees, we need the fees on the network to prevent attacks, to prevent spam. There has to be fees. This isn't, we can see what's happening with on the Ethereum network with CryptoKitties. We saw what happened with Bitcoin early days with Satoshi Dice. We've seen this play out. We know what happens. We know the best developers in the world know you need fees and know that they are absolutely important. But at the same time, the best developers in the world are developing solutions to for the average person, bring down that fee. Again, with Lightning Network, third world and stuff wouldn't have to worry. These, like Francis said, most of these payment channels will just never really close. They'll just always mostly be open so that you can just transact freely and instantly. And then when you want to go back to your savings account, go back to the piggy bank, where your mortgage is or where these huge bank deposits are, that kind of stuff will live on the base layer. So very important stuff to understand, people. We have to scale, but we will fail gracefully as we scale.
Well, let me add something right here. Right? Okay. Can we officially stop saying Roger Ver's name? He's done. Okay, people. I mean, literally, I'm not just saying because I'm tired of him or that Bcash is no longer a threat. He is completely marginalized. What we are seeing in the market right now is it's not even about Bcash. There's no person that's bigger than this right now. We, the World Crypto Network, are going to have to struggle to be heard, because the entire world is onto this right now. They don't care what Roger Ver has to say. They don't care what any single person has to say. And frankly, Roger Ver is going to have to work, as I said, really damn hard to keep the price of Bcash from absolutely crashing against Bitcoin. He could have just sat and lived a good life, but he's going to spend his life desperately trying to keep Bcash from crashing, and he's going to have a real hard time doing it because it has absolutely no use case. As for fees, here's how I look at it. Again, simple competition. Fees are going to go to close to zero over time. They have to. The amount of people on the network and the amount of efficiency on the network will bring it down to zero. The efficiencies, we're talking about electricity and all these things, will bring it down to what it's supposed to be, and a peer-to-peer system which costs almost nothing. But where the miners are going to clean up and have their FOMO is we are replacing gold. It is not just gold. We're going to be replacing stocks, bonds, all kinds of assets, currencies that are no longer useful. And therefore, I've said I have two, quote, price targets for Bitcoin right now. I've had them for some time. The first one is Apple's market cap of $860 billion. That's number one. I think we're going to get there in short order. Number two is going to be all the gold ever mined. That's about $8 trillion. I think we will get there. I don't know how long it will take, but it may take a lot less time than people think. And at those levels, the miners will make plenty of money, whether there's any fees or not. And again, gold is a very small market. And I talk about it like it's so big. Stocks are $100 trillion. Bonds are even bigger. Real estate, all kinds of other stuff are going to be replaced as assets by cryptocurrency. So I wouldn't worry too much about fees. What we want is fees to go down to almost nothing when the efficiency of the network makes it so that everyone wants to own it and everyone wants to use it.
Yeah, and I don't know, I probably have to push back Gabriel too, probably a little bit on the zero fees, but I mean, I can tell you that there will continue to be optimizations, right? There will continue to be efficiencies. There will continue to be better and better mining equipment that comes out every couple of years, and that's true. And we will continue to create technologies like Lightning that will bring down the fees for the average person, so they don't abstract away the fee. So I think that the fees will be abstracted away to zero, but I don't know about the fees ever going to zero or anything like that.
I don't mean zero. I mean very, very low.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Andy is actually talking about. Andy's actually including all the innovations on top. Like Lightning, like full duplex microtransactions, and including a recent white paper that I read. I'm not sure if you guys caught it, but a group out of, I believe, Switzerland, or no, maybe it was Sweden and like Spain or something. A couple different countries in Europe came out with a very interesting white paper detailing an interlayer, an in-between layer between Lightning and the blockchain, which would be used for opening and closing channels without having to do a full blockchain transaction in a relatively secure way, and making opening and closing Lightning channels much, much, much cheaper, and entering and exiting the Lightning ecosystem in a much cheaper manner. That was about all I could understand.
That's fascinating, though. That's fascinating. I mean,
I know,
layers upon layers upon layers, people. This is how efficient networks are built.
Exactly. So in that case, Lightning would be considered layer 3, and the blockchain would be 1. And this new thing, which I can't even remember the name, but would be the middle layer 2. And I think that's, Andy doesn't mean that transactions on the blockchain final settlement will be cheap. In fact, I personally think that might continue to go up and up and up, like sending a Fed wire now might cost you 50 grand or 5 grand or whatever they charge. That I think that might continue to be really, really expensive. But the only time you'll need that is if you're sending $10 million worth, what we might consider today or more. So I'm assuming I'm paraphrasing correctly there, Andy.
Yes, again, because I don't really understand all the technical stuff. I'm just saying I don't think that the miners are going to be making their living on fees. I think it's going to be on appreciation as this becomes a mega asset class. And the fee part, I'll leave it to you guys to discuss, because I really don't know how it works.
They will. They'll continue to make that will continue to be, and at a certain point, fees will outpace the block reward. But I agree with you that that point is probably a lot longer out than most people think, because the price will keep doubling along with the block reward halving over the every 4 years. So if the price is going up more than double, and the block rewards are only going down by half, then they have a lot of tasty block rewards. People get worried about this, but it's like the block rewards won't be tiny for 75 years or 120 years or something. I mean, they're going to be chunky. I mean, what we think of as a tiny, tiny fraction, if Bitcoin's worth $1 million, then that's still thousands of dollars worth per block reward, et cetera.
Absolutely. Austin, I think that might have hopefully answered your question there. Did you want to provide any follow-up on that?
Yeah, I was just, I think that it's important to know that exactly what Gabriel just touched on, that those block rewards might get smaller, but as the price of Bitcoin continues to go up, the dollar value of those block rewards are going to remain huge. And I think like right now, the block rewards are somewhere around 200 or 150,000, something like that right now.
They're plenty. They are absolutely plenty right now, people. So that's really important.
Sharing a little block reward amongst some miners isn't a bad deal right now.
Absolutely. So crazy stuff. All right, guys. I think we're gonna have to wrap it up if nobody has anything. I wanted to do a couple more topics, maybe a little bit. Maybe just can I have Andy just give his quick 5 minutes, just less than 5 minutes, Andy, 2 minutes even, on what do you think about NASDAQ and the CBOE entering after the CME? Because me and Gabriel were just talking before the show. We're still kind of holy smokes on the CME, trying to figure out how that's gonna handle with the network, and then we got NASDAQ now and CBOE coming on. So just what are your quick thoughts on that, Andy?
Well, it's funny. I hadn't even heard of that until I heard it on your show on Sunday. But it's logical. Look, they're all going to come in. I mean, anyone who can will. Just like as soon as that first ETF is approved, which is undoubtedly, I mean, people are not going to understand how much the feeding frenzy is among Wall Street, the lobbying effort to get these ETFs done. Because look at what we're watching here. Everyone wants to buy these things, so they will get done probably in the first quarter. And as soon as that first ETF gets done, you will not believe how many ETFs get done. And the same thing with futures contracts and all these other things. This is the hot sector. And it's probably the hottest sector that I've ever seen in my entire career, and maybe the hottest sector we'll ever see. So yes, every single institution will want to be trading it and having contracts, and it will become as liquid. In fact, I did a tweet, I'll finish saying, yesterday I did a tweet that said that once that first ETF is approved, the one that gets the first mover, you know, like GLD did in gold, it will become the most actively traded stock on the entire New York Stock Exchange, more than even Apple, Google, or any of those guys.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think this is really going to take off like wildfire, and people need to do the research and understand why. There is just so many reasons to own Bitcoin. You know, from it being an actual unconfiscatable digital store of wealth, to being in this brand new payment network, to being, you know, uncorrelated with other assets. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Any final comments from anybody here? Nope. Okay, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up then, guys. Just thank you so much for joining us. We had about 1,000 viewers there at the point, so very, very excited. I can't believe we had that many people joining us in the afternoon here. I think you guys should be working instead. But no, this is just too exciting, and I know the price is going crazy. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much. Thank everybody in the chat. Thank you for viewing. Thank you so much to all the viewers, and thank you guys so much to our panelists. Let's everybody thank our panelists, guys. Thank you so much for joining us and for donating your time, for giving up your midday here to talk about these amazing subjects. And I guess Bitcoin is just going to just keep going and keep going and keep going more amazing. So guys, thanks again so much. We will be back again next Sunday, actually this Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific at noon. I do want to just quickly announce who we're going to be talking about. I'm going to tweet about it soon, but we are going to be talking with Diego and Paul Stortz about RSK, Rootstock, and sidechains. So we're really excited to talk to these guys. It's going to be a great show. I'll tweet that out soon. Really excited. And again, just want to thank our viewers so much. If you guys missed the show, please join us in the comments. Otherwise, we are here every Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific, right here on the World Crypto Network. So please, guys, give us a thumbs up. If you like the show, subscribe. If you're new to the show, we will be here and we will be back. And thanks again, guys. And until next time, keep talking Bitcoin.
Keep talking Bitcoin.
See you guys later.